everyone, welcome to my true crime channel and thank you guys so much for watching. I haven't filmed a video in a little while. I just was focusing more on my TikTok, so go and follow me over on TikTok if you guys are interested. I did post a video on my TikTok about this case that I'm going to do today. Just a trigger warning, it is quite distressing. I'm going to be playing some clips as well that you guys might find upsetting, so if that doesn't sound like it's for you then please do turn off. I posted a couple of videos on this case and people seemed really interested, and personally for me it's just a case that really fascinates me and has really angered me actually to research. I'm going to try and let you guys make up your own minds on this case, and all of the information I'm giving you today is just stuff that I've collated from the internet, from news reports, and also from some family members as well. I'm very excited to do this case today because this is the first case that I've actually had like direct contact with the partner of one of the guys that I'm going to be talking to you about. The person I'm talking about is Guy Heinze Jr. He's actually currently in prison for this crime, but I just want to take you through the whole case and explain to you everything that went on. So let's just dive straight into it. This is the case of the Glynn County mass murders. So in August 2009 at around 8:15 a.m. the Glynn County Police Department get a frantic phone call from a neighbour of 22-year-old Guy Heinze Jr. The woman explains that Guy has come home and is absolutely hysterical after finding his family dead in a trailer. The woman speaks with the police department and Guy also speaks on this telephone call and sounds extremely distressed. Now I'm going to actually play you this phone call, and as I said before, just a warning, this is quite distressing.
911, where's your emergency?
Oh, New Hope Plantation, Highway 17 North.
Okay, by New Hope, what's going on, ma'am?
There's a guy just came home and his whole family is dead. He's kind of hysterical. I can't understand. I haven't gone over there yet.
Okay, tell me what the address is. Try and get that address for me.
140, 145, 140, and it's around to the back side.
New Hope Plantation?
Yes, ma'am. He just came screaming over up to my dog. My dog will bite. He's got a dog out there too that on the porch that may bite. I'm going to have to try to contain him. This is Guy. I don't know what his last name is. He said his dad is dead. Rusty's dead. He said everybody's dead. I know it's a house full of people that live there.
Okay. What's his name?
He's freaking out. It's Guy.
Guy. What's his last name?
Well, Guy, what's your last name? What's your last name, honey? Huh? Yeah. Here, talk to him. I just got home, my whole family's dead.
Okay, tell me what's going on, sir. What?
I just got home I was out last night, I got home just now, and everybody's dead. My dad's dead.
How many people are there?
There's like 6, my whole family's dead.
Okay.
It looks like they've been beaten to death, I don't know, man.
Okay.
I don't know what to do, man.
Okay. Take a deep breath. Vic, I'm coming for you. Just stay on the line with me, okay?
Okay.
Okay, get up the mouth. They're coming for you.
My family's dead.
How many people are there? Your dad? Who else is there?
My dad, my uncle, my cousins.
Where's he at right now, ma'am?
He's on the porch right now.
He's on the porch.
Uh-huh.
No fire and whatnot.
I still 911. I haven't gotten off the phone with him.
I'm going to say, is it okay if I stay on the line with you, ma'am, until they get there?
Okay, here's our
Okay.
my name is Mike. I'm maintenance out here.
Okay, what's going on, Mike?
The guy that lives 2 doors down from me, his name is Guy Jr. I don't know his last name. He said his whole family's dead in here in the trailer.
Okay.
I'm standing right here in front of the trailer. I'm afraid to go in there.
Yeah, no one should go in right now.
Okay, I called the manager. She's supposed to be over there in a minute.
Okay, yeah, we have everyone en route for you. We've got fire, EMS, and police coming to you. But I do want to stay on the line with everybody.
She said, yeah, tell him to hurry. Do you think Michael's still alive?
Someone's still alive?
Is Mike still breathing? I can't go in there.
Who's still alive? Which person?
He's a young man. He's got Down syndrome.
Okay.
So when police arrive at the trailer, they find 7 people dead and 2 others critically injured, including a 3-year-old. As you heard on the 911 call, the maintenance man that actually speaks on the phone as well had stated that somebody was still alive in the trailer. It sounded like someone was still alive. You can also, I don't know whether you want to go back and listen to this if you didn't quite catch it at the first play, but you can kind of hear Guy in the background saying that he's still breathing and to hurry up. So the person that they're talking about was Michael Toler, who was a 19-year-old man who had Down syndrome. So just to talk for a couple of seconds about the victims found in the trailer deceased. So there was Russell Toler Senior, 44, along with his 3 children. They were called Chrissy Toler, who was 22, Russell Toler Jr, 20, and Michelle Toler, who was 15. There was also Guy's dad was found deceased, Guy Heinze Sr, and Michael Toler, who we just talked about, who was 19, was rushed to hospital. Also found dead in the trailer was Brenda Falagan, 49, and Joseph West, the 30-year-old boyfriend of Chrissy Toler. Sadly, Michael Toler, who we talked about, who was still breathing when Guy got there, actually did pass away the following day in hospital. So that made the total death count 8. So as you can see, an absolutely horrific scene to come home to there. I'm actually going to now read out Guy's account of what he did prior to all of this. So his day leading up to finding his family in the trailer. So this has been provided to me by his partner Jody very kindly. Jody kindly provided me with handwritten statements from Guy, and I've sat and I've read through them all, and I've kind of summarized what I feel to be the key points, and just made it more sort of consumable and manageable for a video. So please do bear in mind that some of the timings and things might be slightly off. Guy didn't actually have a phone at the time. This was quite a while ago. This was 2009, and this was just a normal day for Guy, so he doesn't really particularly feel like he has to pay great attention to what time he's doing things. I'm sure if somebody asks you guys, what did you do yesterday exactly to the timings, it might be very, very difficult for you to do that. So that might be why the timings are slightly off. So I'll just read now my summary of Guy's day. So this was Friday morning, August the 28th, 2009. At 7 AM, Guy gets up and goes to work. He met his boss Rich at the trailer park entrance each morning and gets a lift to work. That was his typical routine. So Guy worked in construction and was building a house in Georgia, and around 11:30 to 12ish they went to meet a contractor. So Guy says that Rich dropped Guy and another colleague Zach off at Zach's apartment later in the day, but he was unsure of what time this happened. So Guy and Zach planned to chill and then go to a bar later. They went to a restaurant to eat at around 1/2 p.m. They went back to Zach's and smoked weed together. Now sometimes in this video I'm just going to refer to certain substances as substances because I don't want the video to get flagged, but they smoked weed together and then went to a golf/clothing store to buy an outfit to wear out that night. So this kind of takes them to around 5:30ish on Friday. So on the way home, Guy bumps into his brother Tyler and some of Tyler's friends by the McDonald's. Now Guy and Tyler are really, really close, and yeah, I'll get into that a little bit later, but he bumps into his brother Tyler, and Tyler invites Guy to come to a hotel that they're staying in later that evening. Guy said he'll just let Tyler know. He doesn't really know what he's going to be doing yet. He called Chrissy and Joe at this point to arrange for them to bring him some substances, and they agreed to come and get him. He decides at this point not to go back to Zach's as he was there before, but doesn't remember if he rang him to tell him that or not. So Chrissy and Joe arrive around 30 minutes later. Now Joe sells substances, so he already had some for Guy with him at the time, and Guy begins to smoke the substances in the car. They get back to New Hope around 7 p.m. Now this is the trailer park where Guy's family trailer is, and Guy believes that everyone was there from what he recalls. He doesn't notice that anything's sort of off. He says that he shaved his head and he had a shower. Russell Jr. then gets a phone call from his brother saying that he wanted him to come to a motel to bring some tools to fix his battery cable. Guy thinks this was around 9 p.m. As it was dark, he recalls, and it was August, so he's just figuring it must have been about 9 a.m. because it was dark. So 15 or 20 minutes later they get to the motel that Russell Jr.'s brother is at. His girlfriend and 2 kids are also there, and they chilled for a little bit and they fixed his car. They leave and head back to New Hope but stop at a store. and Guy recalls seeing a woman who works at a sandwich shop there. This woman has confirmed that she saw Guy at this time, so there is a witness to say that Guy is in this place at this time that he is saying. They get back home and everybody is still there. So after a while, Guy decides to go up to the Friendly Express in New Hope. So it's not too far away from the trailer park. He decides to go and talk to a girl called Summer who had previously given Guy her number. He borrows Russell Jr.'s car to do this and says he doesn't remember what time this was, but the store was open and it shuts around 11:30/12 on a Friday. So again, he's kind of guessing what time things are happening in relation to what time things shut and where he knows was like open at the time. So he ends up kind of getting cold feet and thinking that he's too under the influence to go and see Summer, and ends up going to a substance dealer's instead. He said he didn't want Summer to kind of see him like that. I think at first he thought it was a good idea. He gets there and he's like, actually, I don't really want her to see me like this. He then decides to head to Barrington Park, which is a place that he knows is free of police. Obviously, with Guy smoking substances and things, he doesn't want to see any police. He just wants to be left on his own to do his own thing. So he goes to Barrington Park, where he knows that he can smoke in peace. And prior to Barrington Park, he goes back to the trailer to get some more substances from Joe and Chrissy. He goes up to the window, which is typically what people used to do to get substances from Joe. Joe was involved in substance dealing. So he goes up to the window, he doesn't actually go into the trailer, gets the substances and quickly heads to Barrington Park. When he's in Barrington Park, he smokes for a bit under a tree. It was a place that he used to camp regularly, so he knew the area well. He says he was there for around 2 hours, but again, he can't really be sure. It's dark, he doesn't have a watch, he's just kind of like chilling there for a bit. Then a while later, he goes to the hotel that Tyler is staying in. So remember, previously Tyler had said to him, you know, if you want to come back to this hotel later, just let me know. He knocks on Tyler's door, but no one answers. So he goes to Parker's by the pier at 5 AM, which is a convenience store. We know that Guy was there and he is telling the truth because there is video surveillance of Guy at Parker's at 5:36 AM, and this was shown at his trial. So far, Guy's story is kind of adding up. You know, we've got the woman who's confirmed that he was where he said he was earlier on in the night, and we've got him around sort of 5:30 AM at the Parker's store. So he then goes back to the hotel and sees Tyler and chills there for a bit. Tyler then says he has to get his girlfriend and her friend back soon, so they all leave in his friend's car. They drop off Tyler's girlfriend and her friend, and they both go to get some food from a place called the Huddle House. Guy then decides to go back to New Hope to the trailer park because he's got kind of stuff to do that day. It's a Saturday, it's now daylight, he decides to go home. We know from the 911 call that it's around 8 AM when he gets home, and he obviously finds his family. So I hope that kind of made sense. I know that the timeline is a little bit all over the place, but as I said before, Guy just wasn't really sure what exact times everything happened at, but we know from obviously the person who's witnessed, and we know from the CCTV that his story is kind of lining up. So inside the trailer was a horrific scene. I'm gonna let Guy himself explain what he found when he returned home in his recording. We've got a recording that Jody has kindly provided from a phone call with Guy from prison, and he's explaining what he sees when he goes into the trailer.
I picked up the shotgun when I ran in the house. When I walked in the house, walked in the door, I seen Dad laying there, and I started a shot with a shot, and I was panicking. And then I ran down the hallway, and there was blood all over the place. That's when I went in the back bedroom. I seen the shotgun laying right there by the window. I seen the shotgun on the ground. And my first thing was to pick up the shotgun. I went there, and I picked up the shotgun. And then, so, the point I just thought, I think I need to run back to the house, and I don't know who's there, I don't know what's going on. So I'm thinking to go back to the back bedroom where I know Michelle and all will be. And I run back there, I still got a shotgun, there's blood everywhere, there's blood all over the place, it's horrible. And I see the blood, I'm thinking I need to call 911, I need to get help, I need to call 911. So I pick up the cell phone, I see it laying by Michelle, I pick up the cell phone. There's no minutes on it. So yeah, I can't call 911. I just had it in my hand. I must have put it in my pocket. By now I'm like panicking. I must have put it in my pocket because I'm still looking for the toilet bowl because I know I can't call 911 because it's not working. So then I run back. I ain't sure exactly if I ran right out the house then. I think I ran back in the bedroom because I know Michael was back there. He was on the bed. He looked like he was still breathing. You know. And in the most of the time, the shorts that I had on, the bottom shorts, the gym shorts were lower than the shorts that I had on. Okay? This is how the blood got there, on these short, and I'm running through this crime scene. Picture this crime scene. There's blood everywhere. I go back to the back bedroom of Michael. I get back on the bed. I'm on knee first on the bed, and I got blood on my shorts. Obviously, I got it on there, so I got it on the ones underneath me. It's easily explained. And then, amongst this time, I ran outside. That's when I ran outside screaming. And the neighbor, Peggy, I can't remember her last name. That's the one who ended up calling 911. And she came over there and I started talking to 911. But in the most of this time, I went to the car and I'm shocked and I'm panicked.
So as you heard from Guy explaining what he saw in the trailer, the first person he sees is his dad. Guy says that it looks like somebody had tore his face up, which is just, I can't actually imagine seeing a family member like that. I don't know what would go through my head. I can't actually comprehend. Like, I imagine you would just go into a state of shock. Guy says that his dad was completely unrecognisable. He then sees a pair of legs on the kitchen floor and realises that this is Russell Toler Jr. He runs and sees a shotgun on the floor and his first instinct is to pick it up. Again, like I said, I think it's really easy for people to judge what you may or may not do in that situation, but I don't think you can actually physically comprehend what you would do unless you were in that situation. So he also then grabs a phone from the back bedroom and tries to dial 911 and it doesn't work. So as I said before, Guy doesn't tend to carry a phone, so he's trying to desperately search the trailer to find a phone to ring the police. So yeah, he tries to dial 911 and the phone doesn't work. So I'm not sure whether this was an issue with the phone or the signal, or maybe Guy's just too much of it in a panic or too under the influence to actually dial and make the phone work. I know that when I've tried to do things previously and I've had too many drinks or I have been panicked, it can make you like lose coordination and not be able to do simple tasks. So he runs outside screaming and his neighbour Peggy phones the police for him. So there is a bit cut out of the original police recording, presumably to make it YouTube friendly, the recording that I played for you at the start. There was a section of the 911 call where the operator asks Guy what it looked like in the trailer, and I believe that Guy says something along the lines of, "It looks like an effing murder scene." So I will get on to the jurors in the trial and I'll discuss in more detail a bit later on and kind of pick apart their reasoning for convicting Guy. But one juror in particular, there is a really good documentary actually about this trial, which I'll link down below. It was on the BBC. And one juror expressed feeling like when Guy said that it looked like an effing murder scene, she said that she felt he was being a smart aleck on the phone to the operator. So although I don't have a criminal justice background, I do have a psychology degree and I work in mental health as well. And to be honest, all I heard from that phone conversation when he says that to the operator is he's in massive shock and he's panicking and he's getting quite frustrated at the operator's questions, which I think is understandable. It doesn't necessarily sound like somebody who is trying to be difficult or obstructive. It just sounds like he's in a lot of distress. So at this point, Guy is taken to the police station and questioned for around 14 hours. Now, bearing in mind, Guy has had a lot of substances that night. There is various points of the night where he is smoking substances, and they're different substances as well. So I'm just wondering how appropriate it is for him to be questioned at all in this current state. I believe that police should only interview people when they are completely sober and in their right mind. You wouldn't ask somebody to sign any sort of legal documentation when they're under the influence, so I don't really see how they are interviewing him for 14 hours when he's clearly coming down off substances at this point. He's then taken to county jail and charged with possession of the substances. So he's also charged with tampering with evidence for moving the shotgun from the trailer. However, we find out later that this shotgun was in no way related to the murders. So Guy was kept in jail until the 4th of September and was then eventually released on bond. He was picked up by his grandma and his brother Tyler, who I expressed that he's really close with, and police actually followed them home, strangely. About 10 minutes after returning to his home, they knocked and said that the bail had been revoked, and they put him in the car and drove him back to jail. They then charged him with the murders of 8 people. Guy then spends 4 years waiting for a trial. Now, I cannot imagine spending 4 weeks in jail waiting for a trial for something that I did or didn't do. Again, I just can't comprehend waiting 4 years of your life when you're not even necessarily guilty of anything. So let's dive into the trial now. So obviously from the outset, it looks like, you know, Guy is the only person that the police are focusing on. They didn't really look for any other potential suspects. They very much, Guy's the person who found them, so Guy's the person that they are gonna focus all their efforts on. So I'm gonna go through the autopsy results, and the nature of autopsy results is that they might be quite graphic. So yeah, as I said before, if that distresses you, then please do turn off or skip through this bit. So I'm not going to go through every single injury on every person because that would take far too long and wouldn't be particularly interesting for you. But as an example, I just want to illustrate to you how many injuries each person had. So on Michelle Toler alone, she had 48 injuries. Another victim had 36 injuries, and there are 8 people deceased in this trailer. So I just want you to, just as like a bit of an illustration of this crime and what happened, I want you to think about how long it would take you to actually inflict 48 injuries on one person, and then for kind of argument's sake, think about how long it would take for you to do 36 on another person after that, and then maybe another 48 and then another 36, because all of these victims had so many injuries on their bodies. And again, just to illustrate how many injuries, it actually took 2 full days for the jury to hear all of the injuries of all of the victims. So 2 full days to describe to them each and every individual injury on every single person. So that is a hell of a lot of injuries. So just talking about Guy's dad now, the fractures on his head were said to be so extreme. They're usually only seen in car crashes or when somebody has fallen out of a building. I personally find it incredibly hard to believe that one person was able to inflict that amount of force onto somebody and then also go and inflict a massive amount of injuries on another 7 people. As well as that, none of the victims were actually tied up in any way. So it's going to take a lot of force to be able to overpower someone in that way when they're not actually physically restrained. So the autopsy doctor, Dr. Donahue, admitted to not knowing of any other comparable case where this amount of force and injuries had been used by just one person on 8 people. The prosecution stated that it would have taken around 2 to 3 hours to go round systematically killing all of these people in this trailer. Michael Knox, the forensic consultant who is an expert in crime scenes essentially, stated that there is nothing that puts Guy in the trailer at the time of the murder. Nothing, no forensic evidence. He stated that the crime scene is very clear that one person did not carry out these attacks alone. That's in his professional opinion. There's also evidence to suggest that Russell Toler did actually fight back quite a bit. The blood spatter evidence also showed that he was being attacked from both sides. So unless Guy was attacking him from one side, running around to get to the other side of him and then attacking him from that side, seems a bit unlikely that Guy on his own, as the police would have you believe, has actually committed these crimes. So the bedroom where Brenda was actually killed had no blood spatter on the wall next to her, which is really, really interesting. So the reason that this was the case is because there was a pillow being held over her face while she was being attacked. So therefore you would believe that maybe the person, the singular attacker, if we're going to go with the singular attacker hypothesis, that potentially one person is holding a pillow over her face and with their other hand they're attacking her. However, she also had marks on her left arm where she was being held down. So in the forensic consultant's opinion, unless Guy has, you know, a third arm or is potentially, I don't know, attacking her with his foot, there's got to be another person there at least. There's also evidence on other victims that they were being held by their ankles whilst being attacked. Again, Michael Knox, the forensic consultant, did actually testify that in his opinion it had to be around 5 people carrying out these attacks to make it feasible. So let's look at other evidence or lack of evidence in this case. So none of the bodies were processed for fingerprints, which is just such a standard thing that you would think that they would do on the bodies of these victims, but it just wasn't done. Police also failed to collect evidence that they photographed of clothing in the bathroom with blood spots on it, so again, lost evidence there. None of these victims were in the bathroom at any point during the murders. So the fact that there was clothing in the bathroom with blood spots on it means that one of the attackers, or the attacker, the singular attacker, had to have been in the bathroom at that point. However, the police didn't test it, they didn't collect the evidence, so again, this is just really lost evidence. One kind of key piece of evidence in the trial was some shorts and some undershorts worn by Guy. There was the blood of 3 different people on the undershorts that Guy was wearing. The prosecution argued that this blood on the undershorts suggested that Guy was there and carried out the murders. However, we know that Guy ran into the trailer when the murdered people were in the trailer, and he rummaged around and he tried to find a phone and he looked at his dad and he saw Russell. All of this is running around a trailer that was an absolute bloodbath, as they described it. I would actually argue that it's less suspicious that he did have blood on him because he was kneeling by the victims. He was there, he was in amongst the scene when he found them. Personally, I feel like if he was involved in the murders, he would have a lot more than just 3 spots of blood on him. So the police claim that the weapon was never found, but it would have been a large blunt instrument. We'll come back to this because there's a really interesting thing about the murder weapon as well. Prosecutors argued that the crime was substance related and that Guy committed the crime under the influence of strong substances, which could well be the case. We know substances affect the brain, they affect how you think, they affect what you do. So I would suggest that is a valid argument. Drugs could definitely play a part in a crime like this. However, neighbours did witness him return home and then leave the trailer in a panic and call 911. I'd also argue that I know a hell of a lot of people who do substances, and I've been around people using substances. I have never in my life known of any of them to murder anybody. So if we rewind now to Guy's timeline and just recall what he said that he was doing at certain times. At 1 AM on the morning of the crime, he'd been at the campground called Barrington Park. But a Mr. Thomas Williams from the campground stated that he never saw Guy that evening. However, when he was questioned during the trial, this Thomas Williams, Mr. Williams admitted that he'd actually been asleep by 10 PM. So it wouldn't have actually been feasible for him to see Guy if he went to sleep at 10 PM. So he wouldn't have known whether Guy was there or not. Rewinding now to the potential murder weapon, and this is kind of just a really interesting piece of information that I found in my research for this case that wasn't mentioned on the BBC documentary, which I do feel adds a whole new element into this case. A local woman called Gail Montgomery found what she described as bloody nunchucks and a hammer. She called the police to explain this to them and tell them what she had found. And she claimed that a police officer called Mike Owens actually came and collected these items. However, the police deny this. So Gail claims that Mike Owens collected these items from her. Interestingly, Mike Owens was previously investigated and admitted to mishandling evidence in a different case. So despite everything that I've described, Guy was actually found guilty by a jury and sentenced to life without parole. Now, I'm just going to talk to you about the jury because there are things that were making my blood boil when I was watching the documentary, just about how flawed the whole jury system is. I could honestly talk about it for hours, but just this jury specifically I want to focus on, and some of the comments that were made on the documentary, which I just feel highlight the injustice here, in my personal opinion. So the jurors were actually asked on the documentary to describe their first impressions of Guy. Now, we're only human, we're obviously going to have first impressions of someone before we've even heard any evidence. One particular juror said that from his face, Guy's face, they could tell that he had no remorse and no feelings. Just straight away, without any evidence, not hearing a single thing about the crimes, not knowing a single thing about any evidence, just could tell from his face, no remorse, no feelings. So this statement alone, I just feel shows the absolute prejudice of certain jury members, and I just don't know how you can tell that from someone's face. It just obviously shows the presumption of guilt. When jurors were discussing what they thought about the whole process of watching the autopsy pictures and their interpretation of how Guy was taking it, one juror commented, "I just wish he would have paid attention." So they interpreted him not looking at his dead family members' body parts, injured, lifeless, as disinterest. So I don't know about anybody else, but if I'm shown an image of a relative of mine with a beaten in skull, I don't think I'm going to look at that. I don't think I would be able to handle that. I think for my own sanity, I'm going to look away. I actually looked away while they were showing the images of the bodies in the documentary, you know, and they were showing small images, like little sections of the injuries, and I actually looked away from them. And that's not my family member. I'm not emotionally invested in that person, but that's still upsetting for me to see. Now, here is something that I just was baffled by. Several jury members in this trial actually admitted to being confused for the majority of it. It sounded incredibly chaotic during the deliberations as well, and one jury member in particular had to be removed. Jury members reported that people were crying, disagreeing. It was just complete chaos. So for this reason, I believe they took away the potential of sentencing Guy to death for this crime. So just coming back to the present day, as I mentioned, Guy is in prison for this crime, or these crimes. And Guy regularly does like live streams and things. He does have a Facebook group for justice for him, so I will link it down below. Guy interacts with people on there via his partner Jodie. She's really active on the Facebook page, so yeah, as I said, I'll link it. Guy actually was taking question and answers from people on his live stream, so if you're interested in asking Guy a question, then please do follow the Facebook group. But Guy states that he doesn't know who did it. Somebody asked him, do you have any idea who committed this crime? Guy states that he doesn't know who did it, but he has an idea of who may have done it or been involved. So he feels it may have been drug related, as the prosecution was suggesting, but just in a different way. So he states that, obviously, as we knew from before, Joe was in the business of selling substances, and Joe apparently had a shrimp boat, and Guy says that he has racked his brain and the only thing he could think of is perhaps Joe was supposed to get a shipment of substances or something, and it didn't go ahead and the cartel wanted revenge. That is a potential motive for this crime.
Do you know or have any idea who may have done this? That's like one of the most popular questions.
I don't know who did it. I have an idea who did it. The cartel. And this is so hard for everybody to believe. Because listen, nobody in that house did anything to deserve that period. There was only one person in the house, and I'm not speaking ill of them. Joe. Joe sold drugs, and I'm not saying Joe did anything he didn't deserve what happened in period. But he had a shrimp boat. And where I come from, the cartel, that's how drugs come in, on shrimp boats, okay? And that's the only thing that I can put together what happened. Joe was supposed to bring something in on the shrimp boat. He messed up the money, messed up something, or didn't want to do it again. That's how it happens too. And this is so hard for people that don't know nothing about this life, or never been in this life, or never on the coast to understand. You can't wrap your mind around it. But the cartel is controlled there. I know for a fact. I don't know for a fact that the cartel did. That's who had this done. And where we're from, shrimp boats, everything comes in on shrimp boats. That's the only thing that I can wrap my mind around what happened.
Now, as it stands, as I said, Guy is still in jail, and unfortunately his younger brother Tyler, who he was so close to and plays a key part in the documentary, has unfortunately passed away this year. Now, Guy is obviously still trying to get the word out about his case and do everything that he can to get people talking about it and to get it looked into again. Now, my personal view on this case, just from the independent research that I've done over the last, it's been a couple of months actually, because I had to keep taking breaks because it's just such a heavy case. I cannot say for a fact, obviously I wasn't there, I don't know these people personally. But what I do know is that you have to be, in order to convict somebody, you have to be sure beyond reasonable doubt that this person committed this crime. In my opinion, there is key forensic evidence missing. There has also been things allegedly miraculously gone missing. I just don't buy the hypothesis that one person could have committed this crime. I also don't truly believe that there is a clear motive for Guy. to commit this crime. Yes, he was under the influence of a lot of substances, but I don't think that that necessarily makes you go into a murderous rage and kill 8 members of your family when there's not a particular motive. I would be really interested as to your thoughts on this case. Please do comment below if you do have any thoughts or ideas. If you have any questions for Guy, then please go over to the Facebook page and make sure that you interact on the Facebook page. I think, fingers crossed, Guy is going to be able to watch this video, and I really hope that I have done this case justice and been as accurate as, you know, I could have possibly been.
Thank you, Toler, for making the video. You're amazing. Thank everybody for watching the video. You're all even more amazing. And please, everybody, join Guy's voice and get as many people that you can enjoy Guy's voice. God bless you all.
If you're someone who watches my videos and just enjoys them and doesn't usually comment, or you don't have anything to comment, that's absolutely fine. But please do give this video a like, as it just helps get my video out there. It helps more people to see it, and it helps potentially more eyes on this case and just to spread the word. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I really do appreciate it, and I really think that Guy and his partner Jodie as well will appreciate it. Hopefully I'll see you all on my next video.